Let's be honest. When you picture World War II, you're probably thinking about tanks charging across fields or planes in a dogfight. But the real story of victory? It's also a story of logistics. I'm talking about the incredible, sprawling machine that powered the entire Allied war effort. And today, we're going to dive into that machine and the millions of vehicles that made it run.
Okay, just wrap your head around this number for a second. 3 million. Since 1940, the U.S. military ordered over 3 million tactical trucks. And no, that's not a typo. 3 million. This shows you the true scale of what was happening. This wasn't just about building weapons. It was about building an entire army that could move. An army on wheels.
And that really gets to the heart of the single biggest challenge of the war. How on earth do you physically move food, fuel, ammunition, and soldiers to battlefields that are literally scattered all across the globe? Well, the answer was a fleet of vehicles so vast and so varied, it's almost hard to comprehend.
To really get a handle on this massive fleet, we need to kind of zoom in. We're going to look at one single, absolutely crucial example that really became the backbone of all Allied logistics.
So say hello to the hero of our story, the GMC CCKW truck. But soldiers on the ground? Nah, you'd never hear them call it that. To them, it was just the deuce and a half. And that nickname came from its incredibly rugged and dependable 2.5-ton payload capacity.
Now, what's so cool about the Deuce and a Half is that it wasn't just one truck. Think of it more like a platform. The basic frame and engine were just the starting point for dozens of specialized versions, each one designed for almost any job you can imagine. Okay, so you have all these different versions rolling off the assembly lines. It's got to be a logistical nightmare, right? How did the military even keep track of them all? Well, they came up with this brilliantly logical, if maybe a little cryptic, naming system.
So how can a simple string of letters and numbers tell you if a truck is supposed to be hauling gasoline or a squad of soldiers? Well, the answer is a kind of code, hidden right there in plain sight.
Let's just look at this table. It seems complex, but it's actually really elegant. See that first model number, CCKW 353A2? The 353 tells you it has the long 164-inch wheelbase. The A tells you it has a standard cargo body. And that 2 at the end, it means it doesn't have a winch. But just change that A to a D, and boom, you've got a gas tanker. Change it to an H and add a winch, and now you have a dump truck. It's all in the code.
So you see what's happening here? You can basically decode the truck's entire function just by reading its model number. First, the number, 352 for short, 353 for long, tells you the wheelbase. Then you look at the letter code, which tells you its job. Is it for cargo, fuel, or something else? And finally, that last number tells you if it has a winch for extra pulling power. It's a complete blueprint in just a handful of characters.
Okay, so now that we've kind of cracked the code for one specific vehicle, let's zoom back out. Because this whole idea of purpose-built design, it went way beyond just the Deuce and a Half. The entire Allied vehicle fleet was this breathtaking arsenal of specialized machines.
Right, we've seen the workhorse. Now let's appreciate the sheer diversity of the whole fleet. The basic idea was this: for pretty much any tactical problem the Allies could face, there was an engineer somewhere designing a specific vehicle to solve it.
Okay, problem. You need to get troops from a ship to a hostile beach under fire. What do? Well, you build this, the LVT-1. It was basically a boat with tracks. It could carry 24 guys through the water at about 6 miles per hour and then just crawl right up onto the sand and deliver them straight into the fight. Incredible.
Next problem? You need to know what's over the next hill. You send in the M3A1 Scout Car. This thing wasn't built for a slugfest. It was built for pure speed. We're talking 56 miles an hour to go gather intelligence and then get out of there fast. These were the eyes of the army.
And this thing is just a brilliant example of hybrid design. How do you move infantry soldiers alongside tanks over really rough terrain? You build the M3 half-track. It had the steering of a truck up front, but the all-terrain grip of a tank in the back. It offered a protected ride for troops right up to the front line.
And what happens when one of your giant, multi-ton tanks gets stuck or damaged in the middle of a battle? You call in the Dragon Wagon. Seriously, the M25 tank recovery vehicle was an absolute monster, weighing over 116,000 pounds, and it had one single, incredibly important job: go into the chaos and rescue disabled tanks.
So when you start putting all these pieces together, from the humble cargo truck to the massive tank retriever, you really start to see the bigger picture.
You see, the real engine that drove the Allies all the way to victory. You know, it's so easy to focus on the firepower. The tanks, the planes, the artillery. They capture the headlines, they capture our imagination. But here's the thing. Not a single one of them could fire a shot or roll a mile or fly a mission without this huge, complex, and let's be honest, pretty unglamorous world of backline logistics making it all possible.
Ultimately, the war was won not just with guns, but with grease, gasoline, and a literal army of trucks. This incredible fleet of vehicles, this true arsenal on wheels, was the unsung but absolutely essential engine of victory.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? The same principles are at work right now. Every package that arrives at your door, every single item on a supermarket shelf, it's all the end result of a massive, complex logistical chain. So, what are the unseen trucks and supply lines that power our world today?